She was the hard-hitting advantage and loyalty queen all season long, and it got her all the way to second place, runner-up on Survivor Season 48. Joining me now is Eva. Eva, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm so excited to talk to you here.
Yeah, so okay, there is so much to cover about your game. So I want to start kind of like it might have been the premiere or episode 2. I can't remember exactly where this fell, but you chose to open up to Joe, who ended up being your game-long ally really early on about your autism. Why was that important to you, and in what ways did you feel comfortable enough to share that with him?
So I knew going into the game that I was going to be put into the most depleting situation of my life, that this was going to be completely new, and my entire support structure that I built in my real world to help me regulate was going to be gone. So I knew I needed somebody to know my true story to be able to help me if something were to happen. And so I was looking for an ally right away. And the second that I meet Joe, I know it's him because we get off those boats that first day on Loggy and everyone's introducing themselves, saying where they're from, what they do for a living, like the important things about them. The first most important thing that Joe wanted everybody to know about him was how proud he was to be a father. I knew his kids' names, his amazing wife's name before I knew anything else about him. And he is a high achieving man. He's done so many great things. And so pushing all that aside to be like, I am proud of my kids, I was like, this is an amazing person and I want him by my side in this game. And he was there for me always.
Yeah, well, that was very obvious. Like I said, you guys made it all the way to final three together, which was incredible. So, one of the most viral, most talked about moments of the entire season, as we all know, was the immunity challenge kind of during the tribe swap when you had your breakdown at the end of the challenge and then Joe comes to comfort you. So, I'm curious for you, given since that moment happened, what's the reception been like for you? And also, what kind of message do you kind of hope that moment inspires?
Yeah, so I call those episodes, autism episode, where I was getting overstimulated, I was getting overwhelmed, and these happen in my life in a variety of ways. And sometimes it is from being in a very noisy, overstimulating environment, lots of lights, sounds, things like that. And sometimes it's from pressure building and that I get stuck in a cycle in my brain and I cannot get out of it. And this was a combination of all this pressure coming together in this situation where I can't use my regulation techniques because I can't stop. I have to complete this. And I'm an athlete. I'm used to high pressure situations, but in hockey, you do 45-second shifts. If you mess up in a shift, you get off and you get a minute to reset. I couldn't reset. I couldn't stop. I had to complete this. And so it was building and building. And then when this all exploded and I got overstimulated. I finished the challenge. I did it. I finished it. Shouldn't I be calming down? No, my brain doesn't work like that. My brain was out of control. I was ungrounded, but Joe knew what to do and he was there for me. And I am forever grateful that he was willing to step up and be this hero for me in this situation and use these techniques that I had told him about. I'd advocated for myself and he fulfilled that and was just the most amazing person that I think one of the most amazing people that anyone has ever seen on Survivor or in life. He's a hero.
So after this episode, as you called it, at the end of the challenge, you then reveal to your entire cast that you do have autism, and that's something that you're proud to have, and that's been something that you've had your entire life. So do you feel like that the game for you, or maybe the way you approach the game, changed anyway after the entire cast was aware of this?
Absolutely. I had come into this game knowing that I struggle with social cues. I am not good at knowing when people are lying to me. And so I was worried I was going to be taken advantage of in that way. And also, I am very, very direct, and this can be misread sometimes. And this happened. We saw this happen with Star, that I had been very direct and being like, well, Star can't swim, so she should sit out of the challenge. When I was not delicate with this information. And so when people finally understood me, understood I wasn't being rude, that like, yes, there's these things I struggle with. Instead of them preying on the fact that I can't understand lies, they understood the things that the way I act and didn't hate me for it, right? Like Star, all of a sudden she understood I was not being rude to her and we could be friends. And this had a huge effect that people felt connected to me. My vulnerability allowed them to open up and share things with me. And my social game was my biggest weapon and greatest asset in this game of Survivor, was that I had these social connections. There's a reason I went on every reward except for one. Like I had built these things by being open myself first. And so that was an amazing way that my game shifted, that I could be fully myself and it actually worked in my advantage, that I shared this thing that is often a challenge in my world.
Yeah, well, I really do think your game went on the up and up after that. I mean, obviously, you were runner up of the season. So,
Thank you.
I know that you and Joe's kind of whole motto throughout the season was like loyalty and this idea of sticking together and not betraying each other. But I do just have to wonder, was there any part of you that ever did consider betraying Joe or making some kind of flashier move, to get further in the game?
Not at all. From when we first, before I told him I had autism, before any of that, when we first decided we were going to be each other's number ones, which happened prior to all of that, we had just seen Survivor 46 and we had seen Maria and Charlie turn on each other at the end, and then Maria not vote for Charlie. And we were both like, we are extremely loyal people. And you go through a psych evaluation as part of your Survivor application process. And in both of our tests, we talked about it. We were extremely high on loyalty, which is just a recipe for us to be this great duo. And so we recognized that we were like, you know what? We are each other's number ones through and through. And I think that one of the most beautiful things about this was that in Final Tribal, we were not willing to come after each other. We were not willing to tear each other down. We wanted to argue our game. This is why I should win, not why he should lose. And that was what set us apart. And that this duo, that we could both get votes, both be people that were strong contenders to win this game while still respecting each other and knowing that we always had each other's back. I never for a single second was going to turn on him, and he was never ever going to turn on me either.
Yeah, true allies through and through, all the way to the end. Now, as I mentioned, you kind of were the advantage queen this season. This was something a lot of the fan base noticed as well. But to my knowledge, if I'm remembering right, the only thing you ever really used was that immunity idol just to kind of get it out at 5. So I'm curious, like, did you ever consider using some of those things that you had in your bag more kind of to your use throughout the season?
So the fun thing with my idol was not using the idol to protect anything. The fact was that I was holding this idol to keep it from falling in anyone else's hands. There was no, to my knowledge, there was no other idols placed in because I was withholding this one. They were waiting for me to play it to add one. And usually when an idol's played, it goes back into recirculation. And the thing was, me holding on to this, it was a great thing for my game, and it was actually a great thing for a lot of people's games because they didn't know where it would go. They knew I was straightforward. Everybody knew I had this idol. I would play it for myself. I'd play it for Joe. They liked knowing it was there. And so it created this element of shutting down the chaos of the game and kind of falling into order. And I like things in this order, and it worked out very well. And my didn't use my safety without power, and that was also a deliberate choice because I knew using it could have been flashy, cool to be like, oh, I use this advantage, pull that out. No, it was more important to me for me to make sure that my allies made it through to the next vote, that I was there to protect them so that we had this advantage, this 4-3, that if I left, if I use that safety without power, it becomes a 3-3. I might be safe another day, but I'm playing this game with the team. I want to make sure they make it to the end. So yeah, I had these advantages, but I didn't need them. I just needed to hold them so others couldn't get them. And I am so lucky that nobody else went on that journey to get that knowledge as back.
You said something interesting there, which is I don't feel like we've seen often where people use idols almost in a strategic way rather than a safety way, if that makes sense. And so I think it's really interesting that you were like, you withheld it to not have it go back into circulation, because that's a really good point. Now, I want to get into the fire making challenge here in just a second, but before that, I want to know how pivotal on like a personal and game level was kind of, I guess, that mini episode you had, where you are practicing for fire and you're just like really doubting yourself. What was that moment like for you?
So that you say mini episode, but actually that was very downplayed in the editing because that was 10 times more intense than episode 5, where my moment with Joe, because this was the culmination of, this is now what, day 25 or whatever, day 24 or something, like super, super late near the end of this game where I am so depleted. And for days, there has been this build. Like episode 5, when I had that autism episode there, it was a quick up, quick down in this moment. This was a build over days and days. It started with getting DQ'd from the challenge in episode 12, not being able to throw the ball straight up in the air, so I lose the second challenge, the immunity challenge, when that was mine to win. I'm a hockey player, stick handling through the snake. Like, then losing final 5, losing final 4 challenge. Like, this was building and building, and in my head for days, just getting stuck in this cycle of, I'm a failure, why can't I do anything? Like, I'm letting everyone down. I was just constantly feeling this pressure. And so when I go and I start preparing for this, it's not that I can't build a fire. I can build a fire. I built them every day. It was that my brain was spinning out of control in my own just cycle of not believing in myself. And I became extremely ungrounded. I was stimming like crazy. When you see Kyle and Joe in the shelter and they hear me screaming, in that moment, I am on the ground. I am scratching myself. I am in a ball. I am rocking. I am stimming a ton and screaming because I cannot physically control myself. And they cut this out, I'm sure, for a variety of reasons. But I almost would rather this have been shown because I want people who have autism to see me at my absolute worst, to see what I go through, what I had to push through. And yes, Joe comes and Joe tries to help me, but I have to push through so much in my own brain as well. And I was able to overcome that and succeed. Joe helped remind me of who I am and what I can do, helped give me the tools to succeed, and I did that. And so, yeah, it was not mini, it was big, and it greatly affected me. And it showed me that I can truly do anything and push through any challenge that I encounter in my life.
Yeah, which is, I think is the beauty of Survivor, right? Is you're always kind of testing your own limits and reaching things that you didn't think you could before. Also, I apologize for downplaying that. Like I said, the editing
No,
made
no,
it seem
you didn't.
less.
Yeah,
So
the edit downplayed it. You did
yeah,
not downplay it. I'm
yeah.
so glad you gave me the opportunity to explain it
No,
because
you're
yes,
good. Yeah, you're
I
good.
was very disappointed that it was not shown to its fullness, but I
Mm,
understand why, and it's
yeah.
important that I share this story as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you did go on to win the infamous fire making challenge. So, how proud of yourself were you for that, for kind of persevering through all that doubt you were having and just doing it? Because you honestly blew Camilla away.
I certainly did. And that Camilla is an amazing competitor and amazing friend. And we have so much in common that we both are these loud, like energetic girls that have we're women in STEM and we speak our minds and we've bonded over that a lot and we have this great connection. And we played this game very parallel, that we were both part of strong duos. And yet we had very opposite strategies. That Camilla had the door open for everyone to work with her, talk to everybody. I shut that door and said, I'm working with this alliance. I'm going to be very straightforward with them. If you're not in my alliance, I'm not talking any strategy with you. Everybody knew where I stood. Nobody knew where Camilla stood. And that's very, very different and very parallel. And it is very poetic that we are against each other in this end. And it is amazing feeling to have beat her, knowing that she was one of the people that the jury really wanted to vote for. And I'm glad I took that opportunity away from them.
Well, you did end up getting 2 votes in the end, so you were not a 0 vote finalist, which is exciting. So your votes were from Eva and Mary. So, I want to know,
Star and
did
Mary.
either, or sorry, yes, Star and Mary, sorry. Did either of those votes shock you? And were there any votes that you did not receive that you maybe expected to get?
So I thought that I could win 4 votes. I did think that I could convince Star. I knew that she wanted to be wowed. She loves a show. I was like, I will put on a show for this woman right here. Like I love Star. Mary, I thought that I could win her because we were very, very close friends. And they didn't really show that, but they showed me breaking up with her when we voted David out. But Mary and I were very, very close before that. And so I was hoping that I could play on this connection we had too. The other 2 votes that I did not get that I thought I would, I thought I could get Cedric. I knew he was an emotional voter. And I thought I could sway that emotion towards me. I was wrong. He voted for Joe. Joe very well deserves that. And I thought that I could get David because I played the game that David wished he could. He wanted to play a very honest, loyal game to his people. And he was not able to do that because of we took him out. That was the one unhonest move that I probably made in this game to someone that I had promised David things, but the way that he started acting towards my friends, it was not that I voted him out because he was paranoid. I voted him out because of the aggression and the bullying that he was doing. He's an amazing person, but the game got to him, and I could not work with someone who was going to act towards people like that. And I hoped that he would be able to see past that I voted him out and recognize that my game was what he wanted, that I was so loyal, I did these things. And unfortunately, I didn't sway him. So I got 2 out of the 4 that I thought I could get. And that's my downfall.
Well, you did incredible all season long. So, Eva, just my final question I want to know just real briefly is, if you were ever offered the opportunity, would you return and play Survivor again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I played this game with the team, and that team, Kyle and Joe, those are 2 of my best friends. This team, we got to the end and the team won, but I didn't, and I want to win. I'm competitive. I want to come back and I want to do it again, and I want to win.
All right. Well, she's coming back. She's coming for the win. Eva, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Congrats on all your success this season and all the awareness you brought into autism in general. We thank you and congrats on everything and best of luck in whatever's next for you.
Thank you so much.